Los Angeles Chargers and the Miami Dolphins. Chargers get the win 29-27. It was 27-26. Late. Justin Herbert finds Ladd McConkey for a 42-yard catch and scamper to get into field goal range for the game winner. Justin Herbert breaking free from a sack attempt to find Ladd. Ladd had a touchdown in the game, 100 total yards, but the 42-yarder sets up the game-winning field goal. Another heartbreaker for the Dolphins, and the Chargers survive with Bobby Hart starting at right tackle to go to 4-2.
People are being harsh on Bobby Hart. Even in the broadcast, people
were they? I wasn't listening. Wait, you've never been the biggest Bobby Hart guy.
Bobby Hart is not a good football player. He is, however, not.
Relative to other NFL players, like in the grand
relative
scheme
to
of
you,
the world.
Bobby Hart is very, very good. Relative to people getting paid to do this on national TV, he's not good. Right? That's not a controversial statement. Bobby Hart is not a good football player. The NFL has come to that conclusion. Obviously, those statements are always within the context of paid professional athletes, not in the context of a fat guy on his couch over there, right? Bobby Hart, relative to other NFL players, is not good. He's not, however, dramatically different from other non-starting caliber offensive tackles in the NFL. People were like, man, I thought this was a rough situation. And then Bobby Hart came in, and it's like, we might as well
He had not started
surrender. We might as well forfeit the game right now, because what's the point when Bobby Hart's your offensive tackle?
He had not started a game since 2021. Just
right,
saying.
but it's like, come on, how much worse is it having Bobby Hart out there than like other backup caliber offensive tackles? Anyway, but the offensive line for the Chargers, I mean, we said, look, one of the huge variables in this game is the Chargers' offensive line right now is so banged up that they may be non-functional completely, versus a Miami defensive line that should be better than it's been. It should be more effective. Can this offensive line spark that Dolphins defense to life? And generally it didn't. Now, the play you talked about, the Justin Herbert escape, that was one occasion where it could have done that. Multiple Dolphins defensive linemen got pressure on that play quickly. Jalen Phillips and Chop Robinson, I think, were both basically in Herbert's face immediately. And somehow Herbert gets out of sort of steps up to evade Robinson. Phillips, they're coming from the same side, so Phillips kind of on his own guides Robinson past the play. But Phillips has hold of Herbert, and however you want to frame that, Phillips falls off the tackle, Herbert gets out of the tackle. Either way, it's not a sack, and instead Justin Herbert not only finds Ladd McConkey, but it becomes a huge play. McConkey steps inside his guy, goes up the sideline, and that, honestly, that's the game winner. Like, that's the difference between winning and losing, is that individual play right there.
It was a huge play. I mean, the Dolphins, I thought overall their run defense was better, and they still gave up a $124 to
Vidal.
Yes, to Vidal.
That guy's name, we need to have
Vidal.
Generally speaking, like, my thing is when everyone's saying one thing and then later on it's like, actually it's pronounced something different. That's kind of annoying. What's more annoying is when we can't all just collectively decide what a guy's name is pronounced like. Every broadcaster says Vidal's name differently. We need to stop that. Just pick one. I don't care which one. Just everyone agree. Vidal. What is it?
What do you want?
I would have gone something different, but the one that seemed to be most closely accepted was Vidal.
Vidal. Come on, Vidal. How's that?
I mean, it's not great, but just pick one. Stick with it.
He had a long 38-yarder on 3rd and 1.
He looks really good.
Like the Dolphins, in previous weeks, I thought they were just getting physically manhandled at the point of attack. And it wasn't necessarily that, but then it was like run fits and, giving up a 38-yarder on 3rd and 1, which was a big play. So they still end up giving up 5.6 per carry and 140 yards on the ground in this one. Just a classic Dolphins game, right? Like their big runs were all outside. Devin Achane has a 49-yarder, which was wide open and just outruns the defense.
He's really good.
He is really good. But like it's just classic Dolphins. They had all the same stuff. They had some run defense breakdowns, the Dolphins. Some big plays in the run game with Achane, usually to the perimeter. They had Jonah Savinier, the rookie second-round guard, with some non-competitive blocks where you just can't run an offense. They had all of the same stuff. And those are like the Dolphins, They're 1-5, but they have like 6 or 7 plays a game, whether it's their run defense, their pass protection, that in a league where that comes down to like a couple plays here and there, there's that many non-competitive plays from this Dolphins team on both sides of the ball that make the difference. And then when they do win the pass rush, when they do get to the quarterback and they can't take Herbert down, I mean, that ends up, being a big play.
I mean,
obviously.
you have to make that play. Like that was one of the plays where that's why those guys are first-round draft picks, is to get that kind of pressure and to make that play. Jalen Phillips is a big, strong, athletic pass rusher. Okay, Herbert is that as well, but he's a quarterback. You got there. It wasn't like there was an offensive lineman still engaged, you were getting pushed off the tackle. You basically had a one-on-one attempt at bringing down Justin Herbert, and you couldn't make the play. That's emblematic of Miami this season. The Chargers, in addition to having an offensive line that's generally been a problem, obviously with how deep into the bench they've had to go, they've also made a lot of mistakes this season. Like they keep, finding ways of turning the ball over at inopportune times, or, giving teams opportunities. The rookie Gadsden fumbles the ball away, and almost immediately Achane houses that one and turns that into points.
After an early Tua
it's
interception.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's like a 7-point mistake. You end up spotting the other team 7 points. That's always really difficult to come back from when you have an offensive line that's like this.
Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action. I thought the Chargers defense did a pretty good job. It was a weird game. Tua had 2 interceptions early. The game ended on an interception to Derwin James as well. Forced a couple passes early on. Still not I think we've seen maybe 1 or 2 good games from Tua.
Yeah,
one of them this season.
Yeah, one of them really wasn't his fault. It was off the hands of Waddle.
That's right. The tip off Waddle.
It is kind of funny that he threw an
St.
interception.
Nice.
He threw an interception on pitchy woo woo. At the end. That's kind of funny.
And if you're into were the Chargers going to cover, the Chargers were going to cover until he hit Darren Waller for the go-ahead score. But Derwin could have taken that to the house for the cover, but
got
he
it
ran out
back.
of bounds.
Yeah.
That was a nice play, though, too. The Waller play, some patience to let that develop, and Waller with another touchdown, leading all rappers with 4 receiving touchdowns this year. Good job by Darren. You say I'm not funny, but look at you.
That was funny. Every now and again you hit one,
You just never know when it's going to.
It's a low, you've got a low percentage.
You never know when it's going to hit.
But every now and again it's good.
Anything else from a Chargers perspective? Because we have to talk about Tua's post-game comments.
Yeah, no, let's get to that.
Do you want to read the quote, or do you want to paraphrase it?
I don't have the
Do you have it?
quote
Okay.
handy.
Tua's basically saying, look, we've got no accountability, poor leadership, paraphrasing here, poor leadership in the building.
Yes.
And players have been late to players-only meetings.
Or not even showing up at all.
Or not even showing up. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, we're in week 6. Week 6 right now. They're 1-5. We were the siren was going off in week 1 because the Dolphins were calling players-only meetings. We had Ryan Fitzpatrick out here being like, man, nothing good comes out of the players-only meeting. You try to have maybe one a season, and it's just desperation mode.
Yeah, usually it's now is when you have the players-only meeting.
Hey guys,
right?
we're 1-5. Let's get together.
You're 1-5. It's crisis mode. We didn't expect to be here. Let's have a players-only meeting to pull ourselves out of this tailspin. The Dolphins, I think, called the first players-only meeting after week 1. It's what the hell is that? So, okay, number one, the initial tweet that I saw came from one of those accounts that is just like a pure troll farm at this point, right? You basically assume that everything that comes from that account is in some way false or misleading, right?
Yeah.
So the initial tweet I saw was Tua questions leadership in Miami. You're like, well, that can't possibly be the case. That's insane. So I watched the video, and literally the first words out of his mouth when being asked about what was going on was, it's like a lack of leadership in the building. From the player point of view, you're like, well, that's you. You're the leadership in the building. You're the quarterback of this team. So, and then he goes on to say, guys are not showing up or showing up late to the players-only meetings. And it's like, okay, number one, how can you possibly even mention the word leadership from a player point of view without understanding that is you? You are supposed to be the leader of this football team as its quarterback. So simply bringing up that thing, clearly in his brain, that never registered. That, I should be the leader of this team, and I am bringing up a lack of leadership amongst the playing population. Even if you want to then bring nuance to it and say, there's a leadership sort of group and other people are not showing up, whatever. You have to at least reference that, I'm doing my part and other people are not, whatever. He never even, it's just leadership's the problem. And then end of statement, right? Without it ever, the synapses ever joining in his head to be like, hang on, that means that I'm failing here. That's bizarre. I am, however, interested. I need to know, Miami beat writers, if you're out there, if you're listening to this show, the piece of information that is lacking from this dynamic is I want to know how many players-only meetings have been called and what is the cadence. Because, as we said, we do know that they've been called since at least week 1, right?
And in that time, they've played 0 good games.
Correct. So have they been weekly? Have they been twice a week? What is the cadence here? Because how many players-only meetings would need to be called before you would be like, you know what, I'm done with this. I don't care anymore.
If you had one in week 1 after you got wrecked by the Colts,
yes,
I assume it was after. And then since that time, you've won 1 game, and it was against the Jets when the Jets had 12 pre-snap penalties.
So that week we didn't need one. Yeah,
at least 5.
So that's the thing, right? How many would
4.
you need?
Now you'll have another one, like Wednesday's another one.
How many would you need to have experienced before you would be okay with being 10 minutes late?
We can ask. Mohal reminded us we could ask Bobby.
That's true. We could text Bobby. I'm just saying that, if we're 6 players-only meetings deep into this thing, I would be okay with a guy being 10 minutes late to that. I don't think that that's an indictment of that individual player being like, we're six players-only meetings. This is a joke. We're doing nothing in these things. I'm kind of treating them with the respect they deserve by blowing them off, right? I would have some sympathy with that individual player. Now, if they called one week 1 and we haven't had one since then all right, fair enough. That's a problem. Or we had one last week, so this is the second one, and already people are blowing them off. Then yeah, okay, maybe. Either way, I think it reflects worse on the leadership that's missing in Miami than it does the individual player that's blowing off these meetings.
You already have a former player, Deshaun Hamilton, calling him out.
Yeah.
Saying, you were late to he was like, I was in Miami for a minute, and I already was in a meeting where you were late.
Yeah, and then Mike McDaniel was asked about Tua's comments, and he's like, yeah, obviously he's trying to send a message to these guys. You're like, yeah, but he's not. He's not naming them. He's not sending a message to anybody individually. He's saying there's a lack of leadership generally in the building, and the most obvious source of leadership is the quarterback, but it's not me. It's directionless. It's like Miami in a nutshell.
I appreciate when players are honest, and we bring this up all the time. We're like, well, we always ask players to be honest, and then they are, and they get trashed or whatever. But as the quarterback, CEO of the team, co-CEO with the coach,
right,
you do have to make good decisions. And now we're at a point with Tua where we've heard some aired grievances against former head coach Brian Flores, where at the time, Mike McDaniel came in and he patted Tua on the back and said, hey, buddy, let's watch all your good plays. Let's get your confidence built up. And it looked like it worked for a while, 2022
it did
and
work.
23, and it did work for a while. And now that may have run its course as the roster's been a little depleted. But the bottom line for the Dolphins, for me, is that I think the roster's been depleted and they're underachieving, and all of their issues, physicality, winning in the trenches, things that they weren't even doing all that well when they were winning, has gotten worse. And so everything's just getting worse there, and we'll see if there ends up becoming a change.
Yeah. I think the big part of all this is whether or not you want to blame Tua or Mike McDaniel or whoever, it's a pretty bad indictment of the culture overall that players are not treating these things seriously, and the quarterback can't fix that. The quarterback, who should be the leader of this team, can you imagine, number one, if, the season never happened like that, but let's say, a Peyton Manning, a Tom Brady, or insert unquestioned leader of football team, whoever you want to pick, right? If they had a season that began like this, like Joe Burrow, a 1-6 led Joe Burrow team, do you think that there would be a single player on that roster that would treat a players-only meeting as something that they could goof off on, not show up to, be 10 minutes late with Joe Burrow as the quarterback of that team? Number one, would never happen. Number two, if it did, do you think that Joe Burrow would not be able to fix that immediately by going up to that guy and saying, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
cut it out immediately. That doesn't fly. This is why we're 1-5. You are the problem, right? Instead, Tua either didn't get that message across, right? Either tried to do that and they were like, get out of here, right? Or didn't even try and do it, and instead he's trying to say it to the media and be like, well, I'm going to call this guy out in public without mentioning his name. Like, that's not either way. So in 3 separate ways, that's a bad indictment of the leadership in the building. That's the problem in Miami, is that this is the dynamic we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's not great. Not great for the Dolphins right now. Anything else on this game?
No. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?